Hi everyone, it's Chris here from OPMC, and today we're going to talk about the top e-commerce fraud to watch out for this year. E-commerce fraud, much like any other type of cybercrime, has evolved. While there are still some old school ways to scam online retailers, the bad guys have a lot more complex methods up their sleeves these days. Sadly, most e-commerce companies don't know what to watch out for and how to protect themselves from these threats. Let's find out about the most common types of e-commerce fraud and how you can avoid them this year using our bespoke anti-fraud plugin for WooCommerce sites. So what is e-commerce fraud? Well, it's any form of criminal activity conducted over the internet concerning financial transactions. It can be committed with or without a victim's knowledge, and it often involves stealing money from an online merchant. It really sucks. This can happen during any part of the transaction, including during checkout, payment, processing, order fulfillment, or product returns. These types of fraud are often perpetrated by third parties which pose as customers, but are fraudsters looking to steal money from e-commerce merchants. It helps to think about this type of theft using the metaphor: the best way to beat up yourself is to hang around with people who want you dead. This means that if someone wants your business badly enough, they'll find ways to do it no matter how good you are at protecting yourself. That's why it's important for e-commerce merchants to protect themselves against all types of fraudulent activity by setting up layers of security and best practices. That way, if one system fails, you have other defenses to ensure you avoid these common fraud types. The top fraud to prepare for in 2023, I think the first one is friendly fraud or chargeback fraud. This occurs when the customer makes a purchase on your site, but then claims it wasn't authorized. Friendly fraud is most common in industries like travel and hospitality because there are no receipts to prove otherwise, and it's difficult for companies to prove that you didn't actually go through with booking the room or flight or trip they purchased from you. The reason why this happens is that people don't always follow through with their purchases after making them online. They may change their minds about going somewhere or even forget about it altogether and decide not to use your product or service. A lot of these cases can be solved by simply asking customers if they still want their item before completing their transaction, and then honouring whatever they've decided to do. But others will be more intentional in trying to scam businesses out of money by claiming falsely that they never authorised those transactions in the first place. Something is wrong with the item, or they are using stolen information. Another favourite of mine is card testing. This is a type of e-commerce fraud involving fraudsters using stolen credit card information to make small purchases to test if the card is still active. If the card is still valid, they may use it to make larger purchases. The challenge here is that these smaller purchases may not show up as red flags on your security systems. That's why having an advanced plugin that can learn from previous transactions goes a long way to avoiding this type of common e-commerce fraud. Another common e-commerce fraud is when a fraudster copies your store and sells the same products with a different brand name. In this case, the customer may or may not receive the item, but your site suffers and your brand suffers because they have had a bad experience with someone that looks exactly like your online store. However, since you can't do anything about it, since you don't have any legal rights over those copiers' business ventures, because they're not actually selling anything that's yours, it's simply better to avoid this kind of problem altogether by keeping tabs on similar websites in your niche market. It pays to build up your social media presence here, so the online buzz about your store is that you are authentic compared to others. Package interception fraud is a form of e-commerce fraud If a customer receives an email or text message saying their package has been intercepted by customs, the sender will then ask the receiver to pay a fee to release the package, usually through gift cards or money transfers. This can also occur when a card or account is stolen and then shipped to a different location or intercepted before arriving at your customer's doorstep. This means the customer is still liable for the payment, or they request a chargeback and you have to pay the difference and out the goods that were shipped. Verifying addresses and CCV numbers on credit cards go a long way to stopping this type of fraud. What about customer account takeovers? Is where an attacker gains access to a customer's account on your website and makes fraudulent purchases. This is one of the most common types of e-commerce fraud, as it can be executed very quickly and easily by stealing credentials or using other techniques like social engineering. In fact, many breaches that lead to customer account takeovers were preventable if only the website had implemented basic security measures. Businesses of all sizes need to have strong password policies, so customers use different passwords on every site they visit and don't reuse them from other accounts, such as email providers or social media platforms, especially when those platforms have been hacked. Another problem is with dropshipping, fake or counterfeit goods. This fraud relates specifically to dropshipping online stores. While dropshipping is a common way for new and experienced online merchants to sell their goods and is relatively low risk, it does come with some caveats. Some scammers will try to sell counterfeit merchandise by disguising themselves as legitimate merchants or fulfillment providers. If you're dropshipping from an untrustworthy source, make sure that the products you're selling are authentic. Otherwise, your customers will be left with a bad experience and possibly no resolution if something goes wrong with their purchase. More fraud is coming with Web3 and the Metaverse. As you're no doubt aware, the world of technology is ever changing. In less than a decade, we've seen the rise of blockchain technology and Web3, the next generation web platform that includes virtual reality, augmented reality, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and facial recognition technology. With all these new technologies available to us, it seems like an e-commerce fraudster could use them to commit an online crime in ways we haven't even thought of yet. For example, fraudsters may use virtual currencies or non-fungible tokens to conduct illegal transactions, or they may create fake virtual reality experiences to trick consumers. There's just so many awful things we can think up. Businesses need to stay up to date on these emerging technologies and the potential risks they pose to protect against new forms of e-commerce fraud. So how can you best protect your online store? Well, you can take several steps to help protect your online store. A layered approach to fraud prevention is also recommended. Multiple layers of security will help prevent e-commerce fraud from happening in the first place. It's not just one thing or the other that's going to do it. For example, setting up two-factor authentication will keep hackers out of your accounts, even if they manage to get past this other security measures such as IP address blocking or geographical restrictions on shipping addresses in certain countries where criminals are known to operate. An important tool to ensure you avoid e-commerce fraud is to integrate our anti-fraud plugin for WooCommerce stores. This uses a measurable numeric value to assign risk to every purchase made on your storefront. That way, you can learn from any potential dangers and ensure every purchase you receive is authenticated. Stay ahead of the fraud. The good news is that e-commerce fraud is evolving, and it's important to stay a step ahead of it. Fraudsters are getting smarter, but so are merchants like you. E-commerce fraud is not something to take lightly. It's not just a matter of losing money, but also losing your reputation. When customers see that you're experiencing a lot of fraud, they won't trust you with their hard-earned money. With this in mind, We hope this has helped you better understand what e-commerce fraud looks like and how to protect yourself from it in 2023. Well, that's all from me. If you liked this video, give it the thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give it the thumbs up and tell us why. Either way, we'd love to have you subscribe to our channel so we can create better content that's more relevant for you. Well, that's it from me. Thanks everyone.